Hello, and thank you for joining us on the Spiritually Curious podcast. I'm your host, Khalik. And the question is about religion and self-identity. Is it necessary rather to lose your religion in order to find yourself? And I believe it is. But what is religion and why do we think we need it, and what does it mean to lose it? What does this all have to do with our self-identity, with how we identify ourselves and how we show up in the world? Well, religion is where the unknown power that governs the universe is figured out, examined, conceptualized, named, and introduced to the world. Basically, religion is where God is created, where God is housed, and where God is made exclusive to those that devote themselves to a particular theological way of thinking. Because religion claims to be the source of truth and ultimate knowing of God and what God wants, it has to have the source of its knowing come from a divine source, which it claims to receive from revelation from God and no other. It also claims to be the only legitimate source for informing and directing your life, shaping your character, and determining how you should and should not show up in the world based on that claim of knowledge of God via ultimate truth. So religion is also where humanity is figured out. It is where humanity is examined, conceptualized, identified, named, and reintroduced to the world. Basically, religion is where an individual is created based on the agenda of a particular theological way of thinking. So both God and the individual are created within the confinements of religion. This is because religion believes it has the obligation to assign to you an identity, a way of being human, a divinely approved way of showing up in the world. As an institution and as a philosophy, religion desires to shape who and what you are, who and what you can become, and who and what you can ultimately be in the future, in all futures, for all eternity. So through scriptures, theologies, doctrines, and ancient creation stories relating to the relationship between God and humankind, you are told what God wants from you and what happens when you do not give God what is desired. So religion gives the idea that in your current state, you are damaged goods. You are unrighteous. You are unholy, and you are separated from God. You're even an enemy of God's. Therefore, you need to be changed. You need to be reborn, reshaped, made anew, because who and what you are at this moment, who and what you are naturally, who and what you are, period, is unacceptable by God, and you must take on an identity that is more attractive to God. To be compatible with God and receive salvation in a deep and meaningful relationship, you must be reborn. This is what religion says, by taking on the identity of the approved one, a type of person that God desires. So, according to religion, God is attracted to this particular identity, a specific type of person, and you must become that specific type of person in order to be valuable to God, to be saved, to be made righteous, to be made whole, to be approved of, to be of any value, any substantial value, not only to the agenda of God, but also to humanity as a whole. And this particular identity that we're talking about, this is a specific type of person which is created by religion and is the objective of the church. It is to convince a diverse human population made up of billions of individual personalities holding a myriad of beautiful differences in perspectives, interpretations, and experiences, that they must abandon that unique individualism and that dynamic sense of self-expression and adapt a alleged God-approved identity and way of showing up in the world. Through religion, you are asked to take on this particular God-approved identity, which the church says is the correct way to show up in the world, the only legitimate way to show up in the world, the God-approved way to show up in the world, the most attractive way to God to show up in the world, the way God has always intended you to show up in the world, but is asking everybody to do the same exact thing. So it eliminates individualism. And this means that the correct way to live, to think, to dress, to have sex, to exercise your talents, to love, to hope, and to dream are all given to you. Instead of encouraging you or providing a space for you to discover these things for yourself. So you are given an identity, a perception, which to view the world and yourself, a mindset, which to think with, a pre-approved method of self-expression, this way that you must show up in the world, this language you must use, this particular way of defining right and wrong or what's best for you. This image of who and what you can be and who and what you can become. This is because religion doesn't trust you with the task of determining the way you should show up in the world. Who you present yourself to be and what you strive to become are both paths religion wants to lay out for you. Because that particular identity, that specific type of person, is the type of person you must become in order to be valuable and be of use to God. But do you need religion to inform you of who and what you are? This is the main question. Do you need a source of informing outside of yourself to direct you on your spiritual quest in the exploration of yourself and of God and what it means to be enlightened? How is there separation from God as your natural self, but there is a divine connection with God in being and taking on this identity that has been created by someone else and given to you to put on like a suit or a hat or an act in a play that you're carrying out? So the power and legitimacy of being who and what you are is found through this giving of this identity, as opposed to through the activity of naturally acting out and discovering who and what you are. The problem with religion is that in all this giving that it does not leave room for self-informing, for self-knowing, for self-discovery, for self-exploration, for self-inquiry that happens outside of religion. Religion tells you that who you are, who you can become, is limited to what religion has told you. This is the only legitimate way to be. This is the only legitimate way to show up in the world. And not only you, but everyone that is a believer, and everyone is required to be or take on the identity of the ideal person, the one God is attracted to, the one that God wants, the God-approved identity. So all believers are being transformed to be this ideal person, to take on this one identity. that one that thinks, that acts, that loves, that exercises talents, that hopes, that dreams, that prays, that sees and hears and speaks in the approved way. So there's no individualism. There's no individualism that is explored, that is expanded upon, because you're given this way to be. So the opportunity for you to be an individual is eliminated because there is a systematic method to know and be known by God. There is one way to be a human being. There is one way to be known by God. There is one way that is right, and it is not what you naturally and who you naturally are. So this is the problem, that religion makes no room for you to determine what is the best way for you as an individual to show up in the world. It doesn't allow you to pave your own path as an individual, because the value of the individual is lessened. It is lessened through the idea that as you are now, in your natural state, you are a sinner, an evil being, hopeless and depraved, wicked, full of unrighteous thoughts and intentions and longings to commit malicious acts. Because of this, you must be transformed, made anew, and born again. This means being transformed into a new being, a new person with an approved way of showing up in the world, developed by religion per the revelation of God. But that ultimate truth steals the opportunity for the individual to be valuable to God as they are, without the need to conform to a standard shared identity under this idea of a God-approved identity. Therefore, in many exclusivist religions, those that claim they possess ultimate truth and all other truth claims about God are false, they say you can't be gay because it doesn't agree with the identity that God wants. You can't be a member of another religion because it doesn't agree with the identity that God wants. You must understand God the same way all others in the religion understand God, because that's what God wants. So there's no path to an individual understanding of God, a deep and meaningful relationship between God and that individual. There is only one way to that according to religion. And this limits so much of the depth of having a relationship. Think about if you can only have a relationship when you were married with your wife in only one particular way. Like everybody had to do it the same way. How deep and meaningful would those relationships be when you eliminate the opportunity and the possibility to do the relationship in a way that supports individualism and the needs of both individuals? This is why religion doesn't work, because it puts you in a box physically, not only you as a person, but also you mentally, spiritually, and metaphysically. It limits the exploration of what we can authentically be by placing lenses over our eyes, over our hearts, and over our minds. Through those lenses, the believer can only see according to what they are programmed to see, feel, and think. To freely see, to freely feel, and to freely think is in conflict with the religious objectives and that which the religion says is the agenda of God. So not only are you in conflict with the religion, you are also in conflict of God according to religion when you step outside of the philosophy and outside of this box that religion puts you in. But you can't explore truth within a box. Because by entering the world of religion, you are entering a space surrounded by walls which limit your ability to see outside the walls of this box. and that restricted activity of you being who and what you are. Truth is found inside the box exclusively according to religion. An entire world exists outside the box, though. This is the reality. But that world, those ways of thinking, those ways of being, those concepts are considered evil because they don't support the agenda of the religion. They don't support the longevity of life within the box. But like I said before, you can't explore truth within a box. It's too vast. It's too powerful. It's too expansive. You can't determine the vastness of yourself locked within a box and behind walls. You can't truly know yourself working with one set of tools to examine what is truly authentic about yourself. By religion giving you a concept of who and what you are and closing off all other options and possibilities of yourself, it has taken the majesty of being spiritual beings from us and making us mere lost, mindless, formless, and hopeless life forms. Instead of giving us a concept and forcing us to believe it as the undisputed truth, why not have religion? Why does religion not encourage personal exploration, allowing us to feel, experience, and know who and what we are for ourselves? Matter of fact, why don't we do that for ourselves? Why don't we find spaces to explore, feel, and experience who and what we are outside religion? This is how you find yourself, by losing your religion. Instead of giving us a God-approved identity and forcing us to become a specific type of person to be accepted and deeply loved by God, we should rather encourage personal exploration, allowing us to feel, experience, and know what it takes for us to be accepted and deeply loved by God. We should search for these opportunities to be able to do it ourselves, to be able to call the shots for ourselves, to be able to enter into an experience with God and look within ourselves and see what that means for us. Know what those limits are for yourself. Know how God is leading you, is talking to you, is encouraging you, regardless of what religion says. To be free from those walls, to be free from that box of religion, to be free from those manufactured ways of thinking, seeing, and being. Those ways of naming the self, of identifying the self, of conceptualizing the self and what God wants. And not accepting that, but doing the work yourself and seeing what that means for you as an individual. So this is what it means to find yourself by losing your religion, because you lose all those ideas of what you should be, and you just explore what that means to be. You lose all those concepts of what is said that you must become, what God wants. And you understand that you already are what God wants. You lose all these ideas and concepts of you being lost or evil or born evil or separated from God. And you reconsider that and accept the fact that you are holy, you are divine, you are special, you are unique, you are valuable just as you are. And the deeper you go into exploring yourself, the deeper you will go into exploring and knowing who God is and what that means for you in your life, and how that can lead you to being the best possible individual that you can be.